My name is Felicia Campbell. I'm a marketing manager with the COSTARS program. I was to have a colleague with me today, but she is out sick. So I apologize. She was going to be the moderator of the chat during my section. So please, be patient with your questions. You can put them in the chat area. There will be a point before we start the search contract demo section where I'll stop and I'll take a look at the chat section and we'll answer some questions before we start that. So just be patient with me. I'm on my own today. So I do want to thank everybody for joining me today. I do have a lot of information to share with you, and I sincerely hope that you leave today's session feeling confident while you're searching our contracts and know where to find and how to use the COSTARS resources to help simplify your procurement process. I'm also going to show you how to register for membership if you aren't already a member of the program. So my goals for today's session are that by the end of it, you should be able to fully understand COSTARS and the benefits to you as the members. You should be able to know how to become a member of the COSTARS program. You should be able to search contracts confidently and also learn COSTARS best practices and resources by the end. So again, like I said, if you have any questions during the presentation, please don't hesitate to post to the chat and I will get to them as soon as I can. If you are not aware of what the COSTARS program is, COSTARS is the Commonwealth's cooperative purchasing program administered by the Department of General Services. This program provides registered local public procurement units and suppliers a tool to do business with each other effectively through contracts established by the Department of General Services. This approach leverages the purchasing power of more than 9,000 local entities combined with the state agency purchasing to obtain more competitive pricing and choice than individual purchasers may be able to obtain on their own. The program also helps to reduce the expense of the public bidding procedures for many of our members. Lastly, COSTARS provides increased opportunities for hundreds of businesses in all sizes and in all locations for millions of dollars of government business. As we continue through the presentation, you may hear me use the term LPPUs. These are the local public procurement units like you who may be eligible for being members of the COSTARS program. Also, if I use the term DGS, I'm referring to the Department of General Services. To give you an idea of the scope of the program, I wanted to share some of our program data. I always refer to this as our report card. Our membership grows year over year. In 2005, we had just shy of 3,000 members, where currently we have more than 9,000 members in the program. And we average about one new member each business day. Our available supplier contract number is always in flux as old contracts expire and new ones are created, but our supplier contract number has grown substantially over the years as well. In 2007, we had just shy of 500 supplier contracts, where today we have more than 2,000. And this number reflects suppliers on COSTARS exclusive and COSTARS participating statewide contracts. And we'll talk about what that means a little later in the presentation. So we'll talk about what draws our members to purchase through the program later, but we'll talk about our sales growth and what that looks like. From the inception of the program through fiscal year 2021, our COSTARS sales have grown from $150 million to over $1 billion in sales. So our members do take advantage of their member benefits and the COSTARS competitive pricing. So we'll talk about eligibility for membership now. Eligibility for membership requires that an organization falls within the scope of an LPPU, that local public procurement unit, by being a tax-exempt nonprofit organization who receives public funding for the procurement of supplies and services. We often hear the term member being used incorrectly. So I want to point out that when we refer to the term member, these are the purchasers. COSTARS suppliers would be referred to as COSTARS authorized suppliers or COSTARS participating suppliers on a statewide contract. Our member entities are entities such as local municipalities, school districts, tax-exempt nonprofit education or public health institutions, public authorities like parking, airport, sewer, and water, nonprofit tax-exempt fire, rescue, and ambulance companies, and then other entities who receive public funding for procurement of supplies and services who also meet that nonprofit tax-exempt status. The COSTARS program provides procurement benefits for members, but it's also beneficial to the Commonwealth overall. So the first benefit is there is no cost for a local public procurement unit to be a member of the program. Our whole goal in the program is to provide cost savings opportunities in the procurement field for our members, so we certainly wouldn't charge them. The cost to administrate the program is covered by the fees that we charge to our suppliers to be participants in the program. And, you know, they have the ability to make a lot of money in sales with the additional 9,000 members that we have. Because the suppliers already go through the competitive bidding process with DGS to be awarded contracts, these contracts satisfy the bidding threshold requirements of Chapter 19 of the PA Procurement Code. And I'm going to expand on this a little further in the next few slides so you understand the importance of this to many of our members. COSTARS provides our members with more flexibility and choice in their procurement process because they can purchase from COSTARS exclusive suppliers or piggyback on statewide COSTARS participating contracts. They're also able to base their decision on more criteria than just price when purchasing through the program. So they can look at criteria that's important to them, like maybe it's preferred brands that they need to integrate into current systems and products that they already have. It might be the location or past performance of a supplier they've done business with previously. And then also they can take into account negotiated value adds to the purchase. So maybe a higher priced item has more value to them than that lower priced offer. COSTARS exclusive contracts allow for product customization. So I'm going to use vehicles, for example, on this. Members and suppliers can negotiate additional add-ons to make that vehicle a better fit for the members' needs and also make their suppliers offer more competitive. And that, again, you know, kind of reinforces what I just said, that sometimes those value adds increase that value for the member so they can look at that more than just the price alone. Because COSTARS members receive public funding for the procurement of supplies and services, the combination of competitive pricing and negotiations saves taxpayer money in Pennsylvania. And then finally, the added benefit for the Commonwealth is that the COSTARS program provides opportunities for small diverse and small veteran-owned, as well as local companies to compete for this business. So I want to expand on that second benefit listed above, the reduction of cost and time in the public bidding process. Many, but not all of our members must follow the state's laws and regulations, one of them being the PA Procurement Law's procurement thresholds. The law and these thresholds require that for any purchases up to $12,200, these organizations can purchase at will from any supplier that they'd like with no additional legwork needed prior to making the purchase. However, for transactions between $12,200 and $22,500, they must obtain 3 written or telephone quotes, and the purchase must be awarded to the lowest bidder. For transactions over $22,500, these entities must advertise and follow the formal bidding process. Because COSTARS contracts and COSTARS participating statewide contracts meet the requirements of Chapter 19 of the PA Procurement Code, our members can significantly reduce the time and costs normally associated with the public bidding process because they're purchasing through the COSTARS program. So the bidding threshold requirements may not apply to all of us on this call today, but I want to give you an example as to why many of our members utilize DGS contracts through through COSTARS. For those members who are held to the bidding threshold requirements, it is estimated that for those transactions over $22,500, these members invest approximately $3,600 in the public bidding process. And that cost is comprised of advertising costs, administrative costs, and attorney fees. Not only does the public bidding process take a substantial amount of time and effort, but our members would rather apply that $3,600 spend to the hard costs of the project. In addition to saving money, their decision-making time is lessened because our members can quickly start negotiations and finalize the purchase with the supplier that suits their needs and budget. This is one of the main factors in a member's decision to purchase through COSTARS participating contracts. So before you can begin purchasing through various contracts in the program, you must first be a registered member of the program. So in order to do that, we visit www.dgs.pa.gov/COSTARS, and we select the member information tile on the right. In member information, you then select members area, and that will take you out to what I call the members portal. It's really called members area, but I call it the portal. If you've never created a username and password at Keystone Login, you can select the new user registration, and that'll jump you out into the Keystone Login webpage. Keystone Login is a single secure user credentialing site that allows you to use the same credentials for multiple online services within the Commonwealth. So each user that you want to have administrative rights in your COSTARS account should hold their own credentials through Keystone Login. Many of our members over the years have shared their credentials to get into their member profile, and as people cycle out of their office, they find they no longer have access into the system. So it's really good for everybody to hold their own. Once you've created your credentials in Keystone Login, you'd want to return back to this page, and this time you would enter your new credentials in this area to log in. Once you are logged in, then you would want to apply to be a new COSTARS member, and that's the button where the arrow is right at the bottom. You would fill out the simple form and submit it. The COSTARS team then receives that form and will review the registration to ensure that the organization meets the eligibility requirements of membership. Any new applicants will receive an email from COSTARS within 1 to 2 business days, either giving you your membership ID number or following up with some more questions to help us ensure that the organization is eligible. Once your membership has been approved, you'll then want to visit this page again and then select the top arrow. And if you don't see your organization's name and member ID in that list, that means the system knows you have a key to the front door because you've already logged into the system, but it doesn't know where you belong once you're inside. So we need to associate your credentials with your membership. And you would do that by going to this area where the arrow is now. You'll either start typing your member ID or start typing your organization name, and you'll see a pop-up list. Select the correct organization, and then check this box under number 3 that says that you are an authorized representative of the organization, and then you'll submit your association request. Now the system knows who you belong to once you're in the system. This is also really good for members who may be associated with more than one entity. Let's say maybe you work for a nonprofit, but you're also a volunteer firefighter that handles procurement for the fire station. You can then, up in that drop-down box at the top, you can then have more than one entity associated with your credentials, and then you just select the one you want if you want to update member details. This is also a step you would want to do if you have a new user that you've put as a contact in your member profile. You'll want to have them go associate themselves with your membership. There's one more thing I'd like to discuss about your member profile before we move on to a new topic. We often receive requests to update a member's contact information in their member profile. It is a member's responsibility to maintain their own member profile. Excuse me. Without viable contact information, we cannot inform you of important program updates. So it's really important that anytime you have a change in your office, you'll want to go in and make changes to your member profile. So when you go in to make changes and make verifications that it's current, we do recommend that everybody looks at some of the following things. Look at the address that the organization is listed under. Please don't use a post office box because our system actually matches you up with your legislative information, who your legislators are, and it doesn't work with post office boxes. So we do prefer a street address. Also, underneath the street address, in the middle of that top section, you'll see an email address. a best practice there is if you have access to an email account that more than one person shares, like a general account that everybody is looking at, that's a really good place to put that email address. That way, we always have the ability to contact you with important information, because that's not going to change as staff rotates in and out of your office. In the contact area at the bottom is where you can put specific addresses, email addresses. You also want to verify your primary contact's name in that contact area at the bottom. And then just always make sure that you're cleaning up your contact list. Add any new administrators that you want to be able to use the program, and delete staff that is no longer with your organization. And we do recommend a yearly checkup at least of your member profile. So I promised that I would discuss this a little bit earlier. I had referred to two types of contracts within the COSTARS program. So I want to talk about the two types that are available to our members to purchase from. The first is called COSTARS Exclusive, and the other are eligible statewide contracts. So let's talk about the differences of those two types. So the first is COSTARS Exclusive. There are 36 of these contracts. They are multi-vendor and available for use by the COSTARS members only. The state agencies cannot purchase from these contracts. And these are written more for the needs of our COSTARS members anyway. So the state agencies have their own contracts for their needs. These contracts have many choices of suppliers with a lot of variety, and they are awarded to all responsive and responsible bidders. COSTARS offers competitive pricing, and a supplier's pricing offered on a COSTARS contract is the ceiling price. They can offer lower pricing through the quoting and negotiation process, but they can't offer any pricing higher than stated in the contract. And on these contracts, products and services are customizable as long as the customization falls within the scope of the contract. Moving on to statewide contracts, there are more than 100 statewide contracts available for our members to purchase from. These statewide contracts are written specifically for the needs of the state agencies, which may or may not coincide with the needs of our members, but many of them are available within the program. State contracts are competitively priced through the formal bidding process. These are not open to customization, so the prices and the services are listed as they are to be purchased on the contract. One other thing I want to mention about the statewide contracts, because they're written for the specific needs of the agencies, you may find a much more focused supplier selection on these types of contracts than you would on the COSTARS Exclusive contract. But many of the contracts do have a number of suppliers available. Suppliers who are awarded a state agency contract can only sell to COSTARS members if they elect to participate in the COSTARS program under that specific contract. A statewide contract supplier who elects to become a COSTARS authorized supplier agrees to offer the COSTARS members the same pricing and terms and conditions that they offer to the state agencies under that contract. So one of the program resources that we have in COSTARS is called the Guide to COSTARS Contracts, and I'll show you a little later where to find this this guide. This is my go-to resource. Anytime I'm looking to find a good or a service, I want to know what contract it's listed under. This is the first resource I pick up. So in the front of the guide, you'll see a listing of all of the COSTARS exclusive contracts, and it lists out product and service categories there. So that'll help you define the contract. In the back of the guide, you will see all of the statewide contracts that are what we call COSTARS enabled, meaning that a supplier that holds one of those contracts is able to elect into the program if they so choose. So not every contract in the back of that guide under the statewide area is going to have a supplier that's elected into the program, but I kind of changed methodology when I updated this recently. We used to only list the ones that had suppliers that were participating, but I didn't want to limit your choices. So I put all of the enabled contracts there. If you find that one supplier is not participating in the program, you have every ability to just reach out to them and say you'd like to purchase from them, but you need them to participate in the program before you can purchase. Many of our suppliers actually participate in the program because they see that link between a potential lost sale and the benefits of being COSTARS authorized under their contract. So I would definitely look to do that if you're finding a supplier you're interested in, but they're not in the program. So before we move on to contract searching, I'm going to take a look at our chat area and see what I'm missing. Let's see. Can I provide information about what the other acceptable programs are? I'm assuming that you're talking about other cooperative purchasing programs besides COSTARS. Am I correct in that? You can throw a yes in the chat or thumbs up or something like that on your original post. And I'm talking to Andy if you're not sure whose question I'm. Well, I'm gonna start to answer the question that I think is being asked. They're asking about other acceptable programs. So there are other programs, things like Sourcewell and KPN, and there are others. I think Omni Partners is one. PEPM would be, I think, one more geared to school districts. Those are all available cooperative purchasing programs. The only thing I can't answer to with any other program outside of COSTARS is when you're talking about federal funding, things like that. I can't answer to whether or not those are acceptable programs to use. So I'm going to use Sourcewell, and this is not bad-mouthing Sourcewell at all. I think they're a great program because they're really like COSTARS. For, I believe it's the state of Minnesota. So I know that their contracts satisfy, just like COSTARS contracts satisfy the Procurement Code of Pennsylvania. I know their contracts satisfy Minnesota's procurement code as well. They do offer their program to other states. COSTARS is not, it's Pennsylvania purchasers only. But once they offer outside of the states, I don't know how their contracts are bid. So I can't speak to, when there's grant money or federal funding or something like that as part of the purchase, if that's going to fit the requirements of your funding. So in the presentation, can you comment of what the logic is of why COSTARS is not accepted for federal grant purchasing? So they're in our FAQs section for under the members area, and I'll show you later where to find that. There is a write-up from our legal team about federal funding. So in short, I can't remember how it's exactly stated, but in short, our contracts are competitively priced, so they should fit into federal funding. But you do need to get at least 3 quotes. We do have a member quote kit that you can use, and I'll show you that as well later in the presentation, where you're actually getting the quotes, capturing the quotes on a document that you can, then verify or use in your documentation for the funding, and negotiate from there as well, and then capture those negotiations to see how you're getting even better pricing than original contract pricing. But we always say 2 things. Make sure that you're working with your solicitor to verify that the use of COSTARS or any other program is satisfying requirements of that funding, and look at the status or the requirements of the grant funding. They're not all the same. So we don't want to ever say, yep, you can absolutely use COSTARS, because we don't know what that particular funding is saying that you're utilizing. So always work with your solicitor, pass the program, pass the member quote kit to them, and then also the grant funding requirements as well, to verify that that is an option for you for purchasing with federal funding. I hope that answered your question. And those are the only 2 questions I see so far. So I'm going to move on now to our search demo, and then we will revisit the chat at the end of the presentation. Okay. So now that we know about the two types of contracts available to members, we need to demo how to find the products and services that you need under our contracts. So again, we'll start at www.dgs.pa.gov/COSTARS. And once there, and this, by the way, is the starting point for anything you need to do in COSTARS. From there, you're going to select member information again, like we did earlier, and then members area again. And we're going to jump out to that members portal. And just so you know, when you're searching our contracts, you do not need to log into the system. This is the page that is actually going to jump you out to. So when you're searching contracts, you don't have to worry about logging in. This is available to the public at large. So on the left-hand side, the last link available says search contracts. You can actually search by COSTARS contracts or statewide contracts. You can start with either one. For our demo today, we're going to start with the COSTARS exclusive contracts. So we would select that first choice. And this will take you to your search criteria page. So remember I showed you that guide to COSTARS contracts earlier. So let's say I'm looking for something, I think HVAC equipment and parts. So I already know that what I'm looking for is listed under COSTARS 8. Let me see if I have this picture. I think I have. Oops, nope, I did. I took it out. So anyway, because I saw that in the guide to COSTARS contracts, I know that that's available under COSTARS 8. And I also know that I am looking for HVAC equipment, parts, and accessories. So under the category, I can select that. And then that'll weed out some of the suppliers that don't fit the needs of what I'm looking for. Couple of things here. You can search as deep as you'd like to. You can specify a particular manufacturer or dealer, or you can just search all of COSTARS 8 if you prefer. Just a tip, less is more in your search criteria. So if you do a search that's really drilled down into criteria and you don't net any or hardly any results, widen that criteria a little bit. And that really goes to when you're selecting counties. You can choose two different things of the counties, either where the supplier has agreed to provide service and products. The other one is looking for suppliers in your county. Those two specifically can really drill down to give you only a handful of suppliers. So if you'd like a little more choice than that, pull that out of there, at least pull the where they're located out of your search options. And the other thing is when you select your contract number from that second criteria there, give the system a couple of seconds to refresh, because what it's going to do is now that it knows the contract you're looking at, it'll take a couple seconds for it to pull in only the product categories that apply to that one contract. And then you can go into category and pick the category that fits your needs. So once we've done that, I've picked all the criteria I want. So I just simply select search. And then you'll get a list of suppliers that meet the search criteria. And as you can see, we found 116 suppliers that met those needs. So from this view with this vendor list, you can see the contract overview. That contract overview is going to be exactly the same for every supplier that is listed under COSTARS 8. So you only have to open one of those. The vendor contract is specific to each supplier in this list. So if you pick 3 or 4 of them to get quotes from, you will want to look at each of their individual vendor contracts. You also can see contract terms, change notices, contract renewal. And then also on the right-hand side, you can see the commodity specialist and their phone number who's in charge of the contract. So if you have a specific question, you can reach directly out to them and speak to them. I see a couple of questions here popped in while we were talking, so I'll break here for a second. What instances do you need to log in as a member, and when can you go in general public access. So really the only time you need to log in as a member is if you're making changes to your member profile. That's the only time I think I've ever noticed that the login is necessary, because we don't want everybody having access to your individual member profiles and giving us incorrect information. And then Al had said that they joined late, so will there be a PDF? I'm actually going to send an email within the next couple days, at least by early next week, of the link to the recording. So you'll have that information so you can, review it in the future or share with some of your colleagues if you prefer. All right, I think that's all of the questions that we got. So moving on, the next thing we're going to do is look at the contract overview and talk through that a little bit. So as the name describes, this will give you an overview of the overall contract. So in the description area, you'll get a quick overview of like defining what the MRO contract includes. There's also a smaller description box with a little extra information. You also can see the contact information for a little bit more contact information for the commodity specialist. This includes their email address. So this is really where what I would use. I like to email people so that they can get to my answer and, kind of at their leisure. But if you need something very quickly, the phone number is also available. And then on the right-hand side, you'll see the process to purchase. So I want to point out, I think all of our contracts say, let me find it. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, that's funny. This one doesn't say that. Many of our contracts say that if the supplier allows, the contract will allow you to do going in with another entity. If you guys each want a car and you want to see if you can get a volume discount, if the supplier allows it, the contract allows for it, but I don't see that on this one. It may be there, but I'm not seeing it. It's very small on my screen. We do recommend that you print this contract overview and keep it with your records. Just in the event that you're audited, you'll have the overall overview for the contract you were looking at. Also in this document, you'll see an overview list by supplier, which includes the individual vendor contract numbers, their product categories, their manufacturers, the contract award and expiration dates. What you will not find in this view is any pricing per supplier or individual products that they offer. That's what you'll see on the vendor contract. For more information on the supplier's pricing and ancillary services, we'll look at the specific vendor contract next. So this will the first page gives you detailed information on the vendor, who to contact for quotes, who to send POs to, and then lastly, who is to receive payment at their office. We also ask our suppliers some important questions that might help you decide who your top supplier is. It kind of gives you an overview of what doing business is going to look like with them. So we ask questions, things like, is shipping a part of the quoted price, or is that an additional cost? Are there prompt payment discount opportunities? Are there late payment penalties? And we also ask them if they're willing to negotiate. Even if they were to say no on this sheet, it never hurts to ask. So I never even look at the answer to that question on this sheet because I'm going to ask them anyway if I were purchasing from this contract. They also indicate on this document what counties they plan to serve. And by the way, what you see in this vendor contract is the bid that we received from them. Here's where you can find the pricing for the materials that the supplier provides. We actually don't ask them to the widget level of what it is they're selling. We ask them to provide us with what product categories within the scope of the contract do you deal in, and under each of those product categories, who are your manufacturers? And then we ask them for a pricing standard. And that means they're either offering a percentage discount off of a recently published price list. Maybe it's a percentage markup over their cost, or a custom price list if they want to list all of their widgets. We don't get is drilled down into the widgets piece. And that's because we're allowing them some flexibility and choice as well. As products become end of life, we don't want them to be committed for a year of trying to find that end of life product to sell to you. And then also they can add new products as long as they already have the product category in their bid and the manufacturer. So once you've chosen several suppliers to negotiate with from the COSTARS exclusive side, you may want to look at the statewide contracts, especially if there's a parallel contract for what you're looking for. Again, this is something you'd be able to find in the back of that guide to COSTARS contracts. I know when we're talking about like office supplies, vehicles, pest management, things like that, there are parallel contracts. So it's good to get multiple quotes across both sides. That really strengthens your negotiation power. So in order to search the statewide contracts, we go back to that members area, what I call the member portal, and this time we search statewide contracts. So because statewide contracts are created for the state agency's use, they're housed in eMarketplace rather than in the COSTARS database. So this has actually pushed you out to an external site. If you need to return to COSTARS exclusive contracts, there is a quick link in that green bar that'll take you back to COSTARS contracts. Also notice in the green bar, there's a tips and tricks on the right-hand side. This is a document that you can refer to if you get stuck when you're searching statewide contracts. It'll walk you through the process. So as you can see, you have different search criteria here. It looks different, but you have several things to choose from in your search. So because we knew from looking at the guide to COSTARS contracts that we have a contract called NASPO MRO, and that happens to be the contract number as well. In our search today, we will use the contract number with NASPO MRO as our search criteria. But I do want to talk a little bit about some of those other, and I'm going to back up a screen here. Those other search choices that we had. If you don't know the contract number, my two go-tos are either description or keywords. Description is actually the name of the contract. So if you know at least a word in the name of the contract, description's a good option. If you don't know what the contract is called, but you know that you're looking for a particular item, use keyword. And then that should give you at least one contract, if not several contracts to pick from that keyword satisfies. All right, so back to this. Also, if you're searching by keyword or description, I would use singular forms of a word. So if you're looking for carpeting, use carpet. Also vehicle instead of vehicles, that will severely affect your search results if you're using plural. And I want to give you an example too of something when I was helping a member search one time. They were looking for something, a piece of equipment that's used in tire rotation. I didn't know this piece of equipment. I don't rotate tires. So he said he tried searching and he couldn't find anything. So I did a little search on his behalf and I wasn't finding anything either. So I started to think about, okay, I asked him, where would this thing that you're talking about be used? And he said, well, it's for tire rotation. So I thought, okay, garage. So I did a keyword search with garage and I still didn't find anything. So then I changed to description and I thought, this is my last chance. And I actually did find something. At the time, we had a contract called NASPO vehicle lifts and garage associated equipment. And that's exactly where that piece was found in. So I had to think outside the box on finding, a more random item. And this, don't go looking for that contract because it doesn't exist anymore. But I wanted to share it as an example of the thought process that I went through to find that more difficult piece of equipment. So once you see your supplier list based on your search criteria, the very first thing you want to look at is that COSTARS column, the arrow on the right. The COSTARS column indicates whether that supplier is participating in the program under that contract or if they are not. for COSTARS members, the only ones that you can purchase from are the ones that are indicated as yes. The no's are for agency use only. And again, you can look at the overview just like you did in the COSTARS exclusive. That's the arrow to the left. And you only need to open one overview for all of the contracts that have the same title in that description area. So we'll look at that next. So this looks a little different than the one we saw earlier, but it's really providing all of the same information. So this is a different contract, and I outlined this section in yellow. So this one provides a dedicated website for each of the suppliers where you place your order. That is not a typical thing. So you want to read the overview to find those types of pieces of information that are going to affect how you make your purchase. Once you've read the overview, then you would look at the second tab, and that gives you the supplier information. Again, you'll want to revert back to that vendor list that we saw in this slide to verify who is and is not participating in the program. So once you look at that supplier list, then you'll know which ones you can work with and which you can't. So as you see, searching contracts is not difficult, but let's go back and look at what we saw in the COSTARS exclusive search where we had 116 suppliers. So how do members find a supplier who meets the criteria that's important to them, who will get the job done quickly, and who will provide excellent service? We are partnered with a company called Procurated. This is a site where the procurement community can go to provide feedback on their experiences with suppliers, as well as gather performance information on the suppliers that they might be interested in doing business with. This is like a Yelp for public procurement professionals. The Department of General Services has built a relationship with them because we really want to ensure our members that they have peace of mind when they're gaining the best value for their spend. And we also saw it, we were with them since they started building this platform because we saw this as a really potentially good tool for our members. So we supported them from the beginning. You might receive emails from Procurated to rate and write a review for suppliers you've recently purchased from. We do encourage you to participate in this rating platform. Your feedback helps others while you gain insight on their experience. I always refer to this as leave a penny, take a penny, because that's really what it is. You benefit from what others are sharing, and they can benefit from what you share. And actually, I should probably explain Procurated a little bit more. If you go to procurated.com, you can actually search by supplier to see what others have said in reviews and ratings about them. You also can search by contracts and find the contract vehicle COSTARS and get a list of COSTARS contracts that are available to you, and then see suppliers under there and read their ratings and reviews. So there are really two ways that I look at how you can use this platform to help you. You can use it to start your search process and then jump over to COSTARS to see the actual vendor contract, or you can do all of your work in COSTARS, nail it down to maybe 2 suppliers that you're making your decision on, then go look at Procurated and see what the ratings and reviews are. It's up to you. It's dealer's choice on how you want to use it, but it really is a good tool for you. I also want to talk to you about the, this is supposed to say member resources, not supplier resources, but I want to talk to you about the resources that are available to you, because this will really be beneficial for you. So under the program resources tile, and this is at www.dgs.pa.gov/COSTARS, program resources will provide you with our event calendar. So for other webinars like this for members, you'll see that in the event calendar, and we typically put the registration link right there on the title of the webinar, so you can register ahead of time to participate. You also have access to our newsletters and then the general FAQs for anybody interested in the program who knows nothing about it. Again, I'm going to show you where the members' FAQs are located in a minute. The member information tile will give you access to the members area, that portal that I was talking about, where your profile is located and where you search contracts. The guide to COSTARS contracts is listed there, and the members quote kit can also be found under member information. I highly recommend members visit the COSTARS Training Center. This area offers step-by-step training modules on an individual process within the program. So if you forget how to update your member profile, or you forget how to search either COSTARS exclusive or statewide contracts, you can always visit that training center and look up that particular process and get step-by-step help on that. In that area, we also have a link to our recorded webinars that we've done in the past. So if there's any other topic of information that is interesting to you, you can watch those recorded webinars and learn some more about the program and particular contracts as well. So we are going to look at the members area next, because I want to show you where to find that guide to COSTARS contracts, and then we'll talk about the member quote kit as well. So if you were to click on the member information tile, there's a light blue section under your members area button. That is where all of those member resources, sort of the e-document library, I also call it. Under there is where you'll find the guide to COSTARS contracts and the members quote kit. And if you scroll down further down this page in the white area, you would find the FAQs that are tailored specifically to members. So let's look at the member quote kit. I've talked about it a couple times, but you haven't really experienced what it is. So this quote kit really helps you to easily organize and compare your quotes. Also your negotiations as well. In the document, you'll find a sheet that you can send out to the supplier to get a quote from them. And this is nice rather than just doing it through email or on the phone, because they sign the document with their quote. So if you need to keep files for auditing purposes or anything like that, you've got a signed document with the supplier's quote right on it. And then that also provides you with peace of mind that when you go back to the supplier, you're both on the same page as to what the offer was, because there's a signed document that says so. We do recommend that you keep a copy of this worksheet in your files. So the quote kit and the 3 to 4 recommended quotes are not mandatory in the program, but we do really recommend that you use the recommended quotes and also this kit, because pairing those together is a really great way to ensure that you're getting the best price or the best value for the supplier that you most want to work with. So if you can't find an answer to a question in the many resources that we have available to you, the COSTARS team is always here to help. So I've listed our contact information here. The phone number and the email are monitored by more than one person. So if somebody happens to be out, there is somebody who knows that you've reached out and can answer your question for you. So that is actually all I have for a presentation here. So what I'm going to do next is let's take a look at the chat area. I'll answer anything that's left there, and then I'll open the mics. So if you have any questions that you want to ask verbally, you can. To answer Jonathan's question, excuse me one second. To answer your question, so it doesn't have to be just an educational organization to be a member. If you register for membership under the other nonprofit, the additional requirement for that is providing proof of public funding. So if you get funding from, let's say, your county or some state or federal agency, I'm thinking of others. Yeah, I think I covered most of it, but provide that proof of funding, because that is part of the eligibility requirement for an other nonprofit. And it only has to be for the year, because yearly the other nonprofits, we have to do an audit and send an email out to all of them asking for proof of funding for that renewal into the next year. Because nonprofits themselves don't always get that continual public funding that like a school district or a municipality would get, they're the only ones that have to provide that proof on a yearly basis. And they are the only members that might be denied membership for the next year if they're not getting that public funding. Everybody else, once you're a member, you're always a member. But with other nonprofit, that public funding is key to their eligibility. I hope that answered your question. And if it didn't, I'm going to unmute everybody here in a second and you can ask a question. Give me a second here. How do I do this? All right, you should be able to unmute if you have a question. Just let me know and put something in the chat if you can't unmute for some reason. Al, not sure if this was discussed earlier. If a vendor has a COSTARS contract, does that mean we do not need other bids? That is correct. We already satisfy the bidding threshold requirements of the PA procurement code. So you don't need to get other bids, but I would highly recommend that you get 3 to 4 quotes within COSTARS, just to make sure that you're getting the very best value and pricing that you can get. You are able to negotiate, and the more quotes that you get, especially if you get them across the both two types of contracts, the better your negotiation. I don't know what the word is I'm looking for. Power is. So I would definitely recommend getting more than one quote, but no, you don't have to go out for bid with the COSTARS program. Any questions from anybody? I don't see any hands raised. I don't hear any questions being asked. And I think I covered all of the chat questions. Well, we still have 8 minutes left in our presentation time, so. Oh, I see. Why is COSTARS not accepted for all federal grants? I did cover that a little earlier. Look here, actually, I can get that up. Hold on. Dun, dun, dun. I'm going to share something with you, but I got to get it called up here first. So I think you can see this. This is the member information page that I had talked about earlier. Here are the guide to COSTARS contracts, your member quote kit, and then if you scroll down here, the FAQs for members is listed here. In this FAQs, we have, I have to find it. Here it is. The purchase I'm making is being paid for with federal funds. Are there any additional requirements that must be met in order to use a COSTARS exclusive contract? So our legal team has provided an answer for us, and that says whenever a member is using federal funds in whole or in part to pay for a purchase, the member must ensure compliance with any federal requirements for such purchase. One of the main requirements is that the member obtains 3 quotes for the good or service. All 3 quotes can come from COSTARS contracted suppliers, or some of the quotes could come from contractors from other cooperative purchasing programs. It does not matter if the federal funds may come directly from the federal agency or through a Commonwealth agency. Members must obtain 3 quotes to utilize cooperative purchasing programs like COSTARS. Recipients of federal funds for purchases should consult with appropriate legal counsel and refer to the grant documentation and or the source of the federal funding to ensure compliance with the federal requirements. So that being said, that is our standard, the ending of that is our standard answer. And that's because we want to, we don't want to speak on behalf of something that we haven't seen. So your federal grant documentation is going to tell you what your requirements are. So we always say, share that information with your solicitor, as well as the member quote kit, as well as the contracts that you're interested in, contracts/suppliers you're interested in, to verify with the solicitor that they agree that COSTARS is a viable option for that grant funding that you received. The other thing is, when you're talking to your solicitor, you might want to make sure that you know exactly what contract you're looking at. Are you looking at a COSTARS exclusive contract, or are you looking at a statewide COSTARS participating contract? If it is a statewide contract you're trying to purchase from, make that known to your solicitor, because I find it very hard to believe that any federal funding would say that a statewide contract doesn't meet the requirements. And the reason I say that is because those are bid through a sealed bidding process, where COSTARS exclusive contracts are competitively bid through an invitation for bid and awarded to all responsive and responsible bidders. So I would make it very clear, if it's a statewide contract, that might change the answer from no to yes with your solicitor, knowing which type of contract it is. I hope that helped with an answer on that. I can send a PDF copy of this presentation, by the way, as well as the link to the video. Looking at more questions here. So can you clarify this keeps jumping around. Can you clarify, are memberships by person or by district? If I'm new to the department as a manager, do I need my own account, or is there a login per district? So I'm reading this question two ways, so I'm going to answer it kind of in two ways as well. The organization needs only one member profile. And then under that organization, you would hold your own login credentials. Each individual, each contact within that organization membership would hold their own login. If you're, I'm going to give you an example. Let's say you're Susquehanna Township. You've got the township office and you've got Susquehanna Township Police. If those two entities are really one organization and share P&L, profit and loss statement, and all of their money is going through the same budget, really, then they should hold one membership. If they are really two separate organizations with two funding mechanisms or two P&L mechanisms, they should sign up for their own individual membership. So I hope that answers the question with the two different answers of that. Well, thank you to all of you, and I hope that you really gain some good information out of this. If you're not a member and you're finding it difficult to become a member, give us a call. I'm not kidding. We are here to serve you. So we will help in any way we can to help you. And look forward to an email from me, I would say by at least early next week. I'm going to hang out here for a couple of minutes just in case anybody has any questions. But if you've got what you needed, you are welcome to sign off at any time.